Welcome to my review of Dr. Fetus Mean Meat Machine, and this is on all platforms, I believe. And I was playing on the Switch here on the Yuzu emulator, and it took me around 6 hours and 45 minutes to beat the game with checkpoints enabled. And I would recommend using the checkpoints your first time through, enabling the checkpoints, because it will be a lot harder without the checkpoints. The game is like Puyo Puyo, if you've ever played that. It's like a fast-paced Tetris type of game, fast-paced puzzle where you have to make quick decisions. So the idea here is to match 4 or more of any one color, and you can get them in pretty much any arrangement as long as they're all kind of linked together. So that's the goal. You want to do that, and you want to try to chain double combos if you can, like you see here, I believe. Actually, no, maybe not here, but I will show it at some point. If you can combo more than one, together, more than one, cleared line, basically, like when you clear the colors, if you can do 2 of those in a chain or more, you'll get invincibility for doing a double chain like this. So now you have temporary invincibility where you can, move your pieces down quickly without anything hurting you. So that's really helpful. The main thing that gives this an extra challenge is trying to navigate these saws, lasers, and various blocks that light up and things like that while trying to match all your colors. And you'll be fighting bosses and doing things like that, within that formula. So you really only have to complete 14 stages out of the 20 stages in each area. Maybe there's like 19 actual stages, and the 20 is the boss. So out of 19 stages, you only have to complete 14 of them. So it gives you some freedom to skip around. If you're having trouble with a stage, you can do another stage. And as long as you get 14 completed, you can go on to fight the boss. So that's how that works. And the boss fights are very similar to the regular gameplay, but there's maybe some obstacles added and things like that, and the boss will have multiple phases it goes through, depending on how many times you clear. I guess I'll call it clearing a line. It's basically just when you match all 4 colors, you get a little clear of some sort. I don't know what to really call that, but on the boss fight, you're going to be doing that several times to get to the next boss phase, and it's going to change the patterns up. Now, in this game, you don't really ever fight the bosses directly. It's kind of like on the surface, it looks like a boss fight, but it's not that much different than the regular gameplay. But it makes sense because it would be difficult to actually try to fight a boss when you're matching blocks. But it's done pretty well. And the boss fights are very cool. And the regular gameplay is great because it's pretty much the Puyo Puyo formula. They pretty much ripped that straight off with very little variance. But they've added a bunch of obstacles. Like here, in each new world, you have new mechanics to deal with. So for this particular world, now you're dealing with TNT and maybe Ghost. They add new stuff to every different world. When you beat a boss, you go to the next world. That's how it's broken up. There's maybe 6 worlds. And the game is still very challenging, even with the checkpoints enabled. But of course, if you disable checkpoints, you're going to have a lot harder time because it can be very hard just to beat one checkpoint, And then you're going to have to start the stages from the beginning each time if you disable them. So, I would say for a better time, enable the checkpoints on your first playthrough. It was still plenty frustrating for me at times with the checkpoints enabled. Now, I was never able to beat Puyo Puyo on the Super Nintendo, and it's been on some other platforms. I'm not sure if I've beaten it on any platforms. I'd have to look. But the Super Nintendo one was really hard, and, I'm not great at these games. But this one is kind of a unique challenge. I think even if you're good at the Puyo Puyo games, I think that'll help. But this one definitely offers a unique challenge in that it's probably a little bit more based around navigating the obstacles than it is about just chaining the colors together, like in Puyo Puyo, where you can try to set up these big chains. I didn't really have to set up a lot of chains in this game to beat it. It doesn't hurt, because if you get a double chain, you'll get temporary invincibility, but you really don't need it. So the biggest challenge in this version of Puyo Puyo pretty much is navigating the obstacles while trying to match the colors, trying to get your chains. Or not even chains, just trying to get your single clears, whatever you want to call them. That's the challenge of the game. So it's a little bit different in that regard, even though it does follow that formula. It's very different because you're navigating the blocks sometimes in very confined spaces, and you're trying to work around all these different like obstacles and setups. Each stage is like a different puzzle in itself the way that it's laid out. Sometimes you'll have big gaps in the map, and you won't be able to rest your blocks on those gaps. So it's going to change where you place your items, and you're going to have to do it under tighter conditions. So it does really change up the gameplay, and it's done really well. You can hold down to speed up your block. You'll make them fall faster, like you do in Tetris. You have left and right bumper you can use to dash either left or right, which is a way to cover space faster. And it's useful for some of the tight areas you have to navigate. It's good that they included that in the gameplay. It plays well because it has the ability to move fast to the sides. So that definitely helps. With the dynamite, you kind of want to get it out of your way or drop it off screen when you can. But in this map, you can't really do that until you make a hole in the platform. But you can see how the checkpoints work here. Now, when you fill up the meter, it shows like lights next to the checkpoints, so you know how many checkpoints are in a stage. If you notice on the left side there, and you will start back on the checkpoint that you last got to, as long as you have checkpoints enabled. And the way you beat a checkpoint is usually by filling that meter on the bottom left. That will usually take you to the next checkpoint. So that it has good indicators of what you need to do while you're playing. This is the final boss. I figured I would show at least one boss, and I decided I would just show the final one. But as you can see, the bosses throw obstacles and stuff in your way, but it's not really like you're directly fighting the boss. It's very similar to just playing another stage, dealing with the obstacles and kind of just trying to line your shit up. But it is cool. It adds a nice little flavor to some of the, a little bit of a bit of variety to the regular stages. But some stages have a lot of shit that you have to dodge and manage, like tons of lasers and various things. I didn't really isolate the hardest sections out of the game for this review, but it does get tough. But if you are familiar with these types of games, with enough patience, I think it's manageable with checkpoints enabled, and it's difficult, but it's definitely doable. It would be a lot harder without the checkpoints, though. Stages would then take quite a while for me to beat. But yeah, it's a cool concept, and it's executed quite well. Because I think this is probably the first like Puyo Puyo type of game or Tetris style game that has like obstacles, all different types of obstacles that you have to try to manage while you're trying to match up your blocks, so. It's a high quality game, just like the Meat Boy games that this company puts out. Those are also very good platformers. Though in some ways, I think this is a better game. But Meat Boy is cool, but it's a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of standard. It doesn't do anything super interesting with the platforming, but it is really well. I mean, there's not really any enemies you deal with or anything in Meat Boy. But they are cool games. I mean, they're really tight controlling games and very challenging. Though not my favorite platformers. But I would say I probably enjoyed this one more than the other Meat Boy games. So yeah, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I just think it's a really high quality for what it is, you know what I mean? Not a ton of negatives that I can really throw at it, but, it kind of comes down to, I guess, the enjoyment of it as well. And, for me, I definitely enjoyed it, and it was a satisfying challenge, So if you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.